Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR Halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Tuesday, 16th day of May, 20th day of Iyar. Here we go. Today, our last day in the unit of kosher things to do around the kitchen. The Ramah says in the Shulchan Aruch that it is a good idea to have separate glassware for meat and separate glassware for dairy, and that's because particles of meat and or dairy could end up all over the glasses if you were to use the same ones for meat and for dairy. The Shulchan Aruch is lenient on this matter since glass doesn't absorb well, and therefore we can feel that it's kind of safe. But the custom is to use different sets for glass. In other words, to have a set of glassware for meat and a set of glassware for dairy. So says Rav Belsky, and he quotes it from many great rabbis. And so it's a good idea to rely on that and have separate glassware for meat and for dairy. If you have something like chicken scissors used to cut pieces of chicken, so do not use that for parve stuff. That's the suggestion of most of the poskim, since those scissors are used for cutting and pressing against chicken, blood, meat, and everything. Just have a separate set and don't use them on parve items. Make sure also that your meat and dairy sets are easy to discern one from the other. In other words, make certain that your dairy dishes, when you buy them, don't look like your meat dishes or too closely resemble them, so that you won't have problems with mixing them up. There is a custom that most of the Jewish people follow, which is to just have a separate, set-away bread knife that's used for challah at the Shabbos table. So says the Aruch HaShulchan. That is a good custom for most people. For most people do follow this custom to make certain to have a parve knife. They call it their challah knife, and it's at the table every Shabbos used for slicing the challah, keeping it parve and everything. If you ever find in your, let's say, your meat drawer where your utensils go, your forks and knives, and there you find one day a dairy fork, or vice versa. So b'diavad, that means after the fact. If it did happen, it won't need koshering. So you could assume, for a lot of good reasons, that nothing terrible happened. Of course, you don't want them to get mixed up, but if it did happen, it doesn't mean that that fork is treif. You can just consider it, rinse it off, and consider it good to use for the next time, because of a lot of halachic ramifications. It's a good idea also, a great piece of advice also, to have separate serving trays for bringing to the table, because hot food goes on serving trays, so you should have one for bringing food to your meat table and one for bringing food to your dairy table. Not that you have different tables. I mean, when you're bringing food to the meat situation, use a meat tray for serving and then have a dairy one for dairy meals. Don't put dairy and meat in the same bag in any situation like shopping or whatever. Again, a great piece of advice, because spills happen, and that could cause a bunch of problems. It's a good idea also to have separate drying racks, one for your dairy dishes and utensils and a separate one for your meat ones, and that's because we don't want mix-ups to happen. Your water pitcher, you could have one water pitcher that goes back and forth between meat meals and dairy meals, but if greasy hands get all over it, then you're going to have a problem. Or if they're ever washed with hot water, you're going to have a problem. If you're careful to watch out for those situations, then yeah, you could have one glass pitcher that goes back and forth between meat and dairy meals, but do be careful. Don't wash them in hot water, and don't put your greasy hands on them if you know that there's greasy meat or cheese or whatever on them, then it would be a problem. Thanks for logging on, and log on again tomorrow for more. Probably start a new unit tomorrow. Bye-bye.